Hello, so today I'm going to talk about the crafting in games and also the crafting of the project Hive. So, from the beginning of the games, crafting has evolved from the rarely applicable mechanics of role playing games to an almost ubiquitous addition to any modern title. Today, it is used most everywhere, from RPGs to first person shooters, action games, and driving simulators, and the rest of them. The origin of crafting mechanics can be traced back to the early 80s. One of the first examples that contained something similar to crafting were the King's Quest and Ultima 3. Exodus King's Quest, as the name implies, is a quest. It was developed by Syria Entertainment in 1984. Ultima 3, which was themed Exodus, is one of the founders of the genre of computer role-playing games and was released in 1983. So since then, crafting in games has been constantly evolving. Let's take a bird's eye view on the industry and analyze the type of crafting that exists now. The number one type that exists now is the resource versus money. This is the most common type of game crafting. In this case, the player pays for the necessary items with the collected resources, and the exchange takes place at a fixed and transparent rate. Literally, this is not crafting in common sense, but only an abstraction. You take a certain amount of iron, go to a craftsman or workbench, and as a result, you get a sword. So basically, this system is inseparable from the main in-game economy, but instead of using some kind of thematic monetary resource like gold coins, thematic raw materials are used, such as iron, ignite, log, or wolf skin. Yeah, that was it. So the type 2 type of crafting was recipe versus sketches. In this system, the creation of an item is impossible until a player gets a blueprint, a sketch or a drawing that unlocks the item. Such blueprints can be bought, found, bought, or given as a reward for completion over completed missions. As soon as players receive the desired blueprint, the crafting process continues according to the same scenario as in the resource versus money model. By the established exchange of resource for the end product, the difference is that the players need to unlock possibility of crafting itself by obtaining blueprints. So the type 3 is called the improvise. With this system, there are no initially known crafting blueprints, nor those that can be obtained. Instead, the player must independently discover blueprints through trial and error. The user is provided with an interface for crafting where it is possible to combine all the collected resources and components to obtain the desired result. The complexity of such crafting can vary from simply selecting the right ingredients, as in scaring, to specifying their quality or order of addition, as in Minecraft. The approach makes the resource combination system as an abstract mechanism for discovering new items, but a recipe that needs to be studied. One of the ingredient-oriented nature of this system, it is most often used in those games where crafting is expressed in the form of alchemy or culinary preparation. So the type 4 is the improvement to your test. Any system with modular or dynamic crafting can be attributed to this type. Instead of crafting items strictly according to the learned formula or through an established exchange, the player can make an item to his taste, choosing a number of options. In Assassin's Creed Revelations, players can produce bombs depending on the chosen type of case, fuse, and ingredients for the filling. Various types of explosives with their purpose and effect are crafted, unlike the previous type of crafting, where the player's choice is limited to two possible outcomes, right and the wrong result. Here, the players can strategically choose from the number of unknown results. It may look like a choice of different material design, element improvement, or even purely aesthetic additions to the subject. The type 5 type of crafting is everything is possible. Now let's move on to some real hardcore crafting. In this category, crafting itself becomes a core mechanic of the game. The result of crafting is truly dynamic process with a wide strategic choice. For example, the system of combining the blade and handle in the game Vagrant story allows you to create thousands of weapons. Usually, this system becomes the only source of obtaining item in the game where it is presented, because otherwise it will be much easier to obtain literally any other way. For complete study of systems of such complexity, players may need a lot of time. For example, in the game of Legend of Mana, the crafting is so extensive that even 15 years after the release, players continue to discover useful recipe. The type 6 type of crafting is the play to earn. Crafting in play to earn games can be attributed to the separate type of crafting, since the result of crafting remains in the ownership of the player. That is, in addition to the fact that crafting has in-game value, it also creates a valuable product, taking into account the rarity of the created item or the beauty of the design. Accordingly, if such mechanics are implemented well, then the player is not just interested in playing, but also acquire profit. For example, in Project Hive, almost all game content is NFT and therefore available for crafting and improvement. The player has access to crafting playable characters and weapons, of which there are 12 types and 3 per class, and 4 main types of armor, which fall into 5 categories. All this is also ranked by rarity, and the final result of crafting is almost unique, which makes crafting in Project Hive one of the biggest examples of well thought out mechanics. So over the years, crafting has evolved from an additional form of goal achievement into an independent and sometimes even more core game mechanics. Of course, with this development of games, with this development of games, crafting will also develop, and the mechanics of play to earn will only warm up the interest of developers, since it will create a separate market for creators, crafted items, and even artilleries and studios of crafters. Now, it is difficult to imagine a game that would not contain these mechanics. That is why, if you're still poorly familiar with it, you should start diving into. Thank you.